Hey everyone, so today I want to talk about 26 tone equal temperament, 26 EDO. It's a really fascinating and a really nice sounding tuning. It's not one of the most common ones, but it's one that could have a lot of potential in new instruments, and especially one thing that I want to encourage in microtonality or Zen harmonic exploration is the idea that no tuning has to be fixed and static. I think that one of the things that made 12 tone tuning a bit stale was the fact that they had to be 12 equal notes all the time, and the small deviations of those notes were no longer becoming part of regular practice, and we became reliant on guitar tuners, electric tuners. We became reliant on piano tuners for pianos, and we stopped tuning on our own to our ears. We stopped listening to the instruments and finding out ways that they can bring out their voice, and especially if we want to play in different keys. If we look back to the well-tempered clavier of Bach, we can see that every key was different for Bach in the period of all temperaments. And one of the really interesting things about 26 is that it made me think about the idea of well temperaments on stringed instruments, because in the Baroque period, well temperaments were primarily on keyboard instruments, on the harpsichord, because every tone could be tuned individually. So that meant that you could, in say Bach's case, you could tune five perfect fifths to the 3-2 ratio, and then tune a few that had a few cents flat, and then tune a few that had a few more cents flat. Basically, trying to get rid of this intolerant comma, having some amount of that 20 cent, more or less, deviance split between the fifths. And this is a bit different from what we encounter in the mean tone temperaments, which we drop every fifth by that, but that ends up having one of the wolf fifths. But the mean tone temperaments can actually be tuned on a guitar, and I would like to investigate this more, but I do think that some of the guitars and string instruments from the Baroque period and from the Renaissance period would have a more mean tone tuning, probably quarter comma mean tone, and maybe some in third comma or fifth comma or seventh comma, and that they would those are convenient for stringed instruments, and they're also convenient for playing in certain keys on those instruments as well. They're not necessarily convenient for playing in every key on those instruments, unless we temper the instruments in that. So I kind of want to start talking about 26 based on the idea of tempering and what it means on a stringed instrument. So in the case of 26, it's part of the flat tone family of all temperaments. So if you're familiar with mean tone, what mean tone does is it makes the fifths all a little bit flat. So 12 tone equal temperament is mean tone tuning, which takes the fifth of about 702 cents and drops it by 2 cents, which ends up also being an equal temperament. It is both a mean tone tuning and an equal temperament. But if we want to go to the pure mean tone tunings, quarter comma mean tone is dropping each fifth by about 4 or 5 cents. And in four of those, 4/5 in a cycle will give us the major third at the 5-4 ratio, the harmonic major third, the just major third, the perfect major third, which was the third that was in vogue in the Renaissance period. And it's strange that that no longer was an aesthetic choice later. The history of that is better for somebody else to talk about. It's still a work in progress for me, but it's interesting to know that that type of third was popular and then went out of popularity. However, a lot of times we might still sing that third if a fixed pitch instrument is not giving us a reference pitch. So a flat tone tuning is actually taking the idea of mean tone and dropping the fifth even more. So in this case, in 26, the fifth is about 10 cents flat, give or take. You can always search on the Zen Wiki or on Wikipedia and you can find these exact numbers. You don't need to fixate on them. They're cool for analysis, but when you're actually playing music, it's better to guide by ear, in my opinion, although those reference points can help create a conceptual understanding. So let's say for practical purposes that we have the fifths about 10 cents flat. So what does this mean? This means that when we cycle through 4/5, we're actually getting lower than the 5/4. So this is why it's called flat tone. We're actually getting this major third that's closer to a neutral third, which is a weird phenomenon. It's like we got to the point that was perfect that we were trying to get, and then we just kept going, and it got too flat. But what does that mean? We have the fifth being flat and we have the third being flat, and by a difference that isn't too extreme either. So this means that with tempering the 26 tone instrument, when we have more flat notes, we have more possibilities for both bending and for tuning things up. When everything is already sharp, it becomes a bit harder to navigate that. Everything is already at the limit, and we can't do too much with it. When we're on stringed instruments, if something's flat, we can always bend it up a little bit. We have a little bit of wiggle room, and every instrument is different. So this, we're talking specifically about stringed instruments in this tuning. And anyway, so I'm gonna play a little bit about this. I'm in a tuning that makes the C chord sound quite nice. How it sounds playing in the key of C. I get quite a lot of chords. We get a nice D major. We can even drop that third. So I want to show a bit of the chord set. So we have to take two things into consideration. One, we're in 26 though. We're in 26 tone equal temperament. Also, we've tempered this a little bit so that we have this fifth, this G to C is a perfect fifth, or close to a perfect fifth. It's no longer the 10 cents flat. And on this A string, I'm tuning the two C's together. And then the E, it's not quite a 5/4, but if we listen to the tones that we have as a major third in 26, none of them are quite there. It's a little bit more tuned by ear to one that works, and also trying to make it so that, for example, on this F, we get the nice C to F, because if we start to flatten it just a bit more to get that, let's see. So we flatten it to get that perfect 5/4. You notice how that shines a bit more? That nice just intonation major triad. Especially with a nice seventh. But if we try to go to the F now, it's a bit more wonky. Maybe it's still okay if we're okay with that. So there might be some cases where we want this perfect E. want to. Just bring that up just a little bit. Then we get this nice F chord, and the C is still pretty nice. So it's all about compromise in the well temperaments, and deciding which keys we're going to be playing in. And the nice thing about a guitar is if you're changing to a different key in a different piece, you just adjust the strings a little bit, and then you're fine. There's no huge problem in tempering the instrument you have between songs. And usually it's advisable to tune between songs anyways, and tune by ear, and to not rely on something outside of your own ability to hear the music that you're creating to tune your instrument. So let's see a few of the chords in 26 tone equal temperament that I think are pretty cool. So we're going to stay in this tuning for now. So we got the major chord that's going to have this third a bit sharp from the 5/4, but it's pretty nice. And so we can see the different sevenths. So we got a super major seventh. We got kind of a normal major seventh. And then we got a neutral seventh. A harmonic seventh, and we actually got the subharmonic seventh. So we kind of get this weird thing where we don't really get a proper minor seventh, but let's see, can we find a minor seventh in some other circumstance? Like, how do we define a minor seventh? And which minor third do we want? A few different thirds that we get as well. So we started with the seventh with the major. We got this major 2. We got this maybe as a neutral, as a minor. Then we got another kind of minor. How do we hear the minor? Are we hearing the minor as the 6/5 ratio that's like 3/15 cents? Or are we hearing it as the tempered one that's like close to 19th harmonic and close to 300 cents? They're both great minors, but which one are we going to use, and how do they sound differently? That's up to our choices as musicians, and how we're hearing and how we want to play with those different identities and the amount of different minor shaped triads, minor sounding triads. And so with that, when is this going to be the right minor third or the minor seventh? This one's quite nice. And let's hear in a different key as well. So now we're in the key of D minor. bit harder to get because we're going to get an F if we drop down a whole tone, but let's see what other, if we have a D minor like this, with the major 7th, a super major 7th, so in some of the fingerings we kind of get a bit stranger of the chords, and we have to find more places that we can use them if we really want to experience that type of tonality. So let's go for a bit to A minor. So A minor with the neutral 7th. To go to E major. Is this the one we want? Or is this the one we want? Or is this the one? So we get quite a lot of different possibilities, and once we're tempering the instrument, we get even more of a variety of different types of thirds, different types of sevenths, and in the 26 tuning we get things that are moved around in a different way than in a quarter tone tuning. If you watch the quarter tone videos, we have the identities, they're pretty straight ahead. They're in between the identities that we've already created. But once we're adding these 2 more tones in, just kind of pushing it, kind of making the 50-cent quarter tone go towards 40, 45, we have this other space. Everything's kind of shifted a bit. So the idea of what these identities are a bit different. So once we're saying, this is a harmonic 7th, this is a minor 7th, well, where are these exactly? Because are they based on just intonation? Are they based on a reference of 12? And in any way, in any form, it could benefit us to think of them in different ways, and to reevaluate the ways that we think about the identity and the note colors in different tunings, and especially go outside of the box for what the tunings are, because in the end we want to hear everything. Sometimes it doesn't matter if your guitar has 26 tones or 24 or 27, they can still play together. We're still, the idea of the instrument is that it can do anything. We're putting different reference points on how we can make the instrument sound based on the music that we're creating, and hoping that the tools that we use can bring us the closest to the ideas that we want to express. So, and some other time I'm going to talk more about 26 tone tuning. Here's a few ideas. Leave any comments if there's anything you'd like to know, or any other kind of video that you'd like me to share, and thanks for watching.